Welcome dear learners. Today in the second part of our video, that is of week 3, both the Buddhism and Jainism philosophy, we are going to discuss in this part of our video the educational implication of Buddhism. In the last part of our video, we have already discussed what is the Buddhist philosophy, what are its characteristics, what actually the Buddhist philosophy includes. But now in this part of video, we are going to discuss on the educational implication of the Buddhism, that is the Buddhist philosophy. So, the main aim of Buddhist education is to attain wisdom. It is the core goal. So, how we can attain wisdom? Well, how Buddhist philosophy actually emphasize on attaining wisdom? That is, one is the intrinsic wisdom. What the Buddhist philosophers they actually mean by intrinsic wisdom? They say that in Buddhist education actually they emphasize the inherent wisdom. We have wisdom in us. We have the inherent wisdom quality within us. So that is the wisdom which is built in our as a human being. So the Buddhist education actually aims to help individuals awaken and realize this innate potential, that is the intrinsic wisdom. Then they also emphasize on cultivating wisdom. So how to cultivate wisdom through education? So Buddhist education, they emphasize that through practice and cultivation, Buddhist education, they encourages the development of ultimate wisdom leading to liberation and enlightenment. So they emphasized on two wisdom, that is the intrinsic wisdom, and the another wisdom is to cultivate wisdom among us. We have our innate wisdom, and also we can cultivate wisdom through education. And next is equality in learning. So Buddha's teaching, they promote absolute equality, recognizing the equal potential for wisdom in every individual. So these are the three things through which we can, as per Buddhist education, we can attain wisdom, and which is the core goal of Buddhist education or the Buddhist educational philosophy. So what is the aim of Buddhist education? The Buddhist education emphasizes on nirvana and the personality development. See, we have already discussed in the earlier part of our video what is nirvana. That means the liberation from suffering. So Buddhist education also aims to attain nirvana. So how to attain? The ultimate goal of Buddhist education is to attain nirvana, a state of enlightenment and liberation from worldly suffering. So Buddhist education is given to the learners in such a way from that they can actually attain the nirvana stage. That means they can get free from themselves the worldly suffering, the suffering which we get in our life. Actually the Buddhist education, what they emphasize to remove that kind of suffering from one's life. So this is one of the aim of Buddhist education. Another is the personality development. So control of desires and senses is emphasized, leading to the spiritual peace and happiness through self-discipline and a simple life. So Buddhist education always emphasized on personality development through self-discipline and through maintaining a simple life. Then in the aim of education, there is also one part in the Buddhist education, that is the comprehensive development. The development of body, mind and spirit. So Buddhist education always emphasizes the comprehensive development of body, mind and spirit of a human being. So how the comprehensive development takes place? Through 4: physical, intellectual, spiritual and religious development. If this 4 part of the development takes place in a human being, then yes, there will be a comprehensive development of body, mind and spirit. Again, how the physical and intellectual development takes place? the system valued both physical and intellectual growth, ensuring students develop their skills and knowledge. So how the physical and intellectual development will take place? Through the education system, which will provide or which will develop their skills and knowledge. And how the spiritual and religious development will take place? By fostering some kind of spiritual training, which is also included in the curriculum of Buddhism. So Buddhist teaching and practices were the central to the curriculum, providing spiritual training and fostering a sense of interconnectedness. That means the curriculum of Buddhist education will lead to the spiritual and religious development of the human being. So they also emphasize on comprehensive development. Again, they also emphasize on cultural preservation and to spread that culture throughout the world, throughout all the people. So how they want to preserve their culture and how they spread it? By propagation of Buddhism. The education system, the Buddhist education system actually played a crucial role in spreading Buddhist teaching and fostering a community of learners. They always want to preach the philosophy of Buddhism among all people in the world. So they always, to preserve their culture, they propagate Buddhism among all learners. Then another step they take to preserve their culture, that is through education, like cultural traditions and knowledge, ensuring transmission of knowledge across generation. So there are different kinds of generations. See, we have our parents, we have our children. So that education, Buddhist education system, actually they emphasizes the preservation of culture through generations. So how through generation? From our parents to us from our children. So they used to propagate their Buddhist philosophy through their different generations. So like that they used to preserve their culture. And last is the non-violence and compassion. So Buddhist education emphasizes the importance of non-violence and compassion, promoting understanding and peaceful coexistence. So cultural preservation and to spread that culture is also one of the aim of Buddhist education. Now the curriculum. What actually include the curriculum? So curriculum includes from fundamental to the advanced studies. It's not like that they only preach the Buddhist philosophy. They only preach their Buddhist spiritual context among the learners. No, they always emphasizes on skills. They always emphasizes on vocation and also to the advanced studies. Like in primary education, what they used to give, they give the basic literacy and numeracy were taught, alongside vocational skills and practical knowledge. But again in higher education, a broad range of subjects were covered, including philosophy, literature, logic, law, and even science. At that time also they emphasizes on the advanced studies like science. So Buddhist philosophy is also not only based on the spiritual education, not only based to preach their Buddhism as a culture, but also providing learners all kind of education like skill-based, practical knowledge, and also subjects like philosophy, literature, logic, law, and science. Then comes the spiritual foundation. So Buddhist philosophy is no doubt is also based on, so as they are also propagating their philosophy through some religious by religious texts like Tripitaka. So what it includes, like Sutanta, what Buddhist they used to teach. One of the thing is Sutanta, that is the teachings of the Buddha. Through Sutanta, what they used to teach, the teaching which was provided by Buddha. The section of the Tripitaka contains like Buddha's teaching on various aspects of life and liberation. So through spiritual foundation, they used to preach the teaching of Buddha to their learners. Again comes Vinaya, that is the precepts and the rules. The Vinaya actually outlines the rules and precepts for monks and nuns, promoting ethical conduct and discipline. So Vinaya actually it's a rule of conduct, rule of law, which every monks and nuns should follow in the Buddhist philosophy or in the Buddhist system of education, when they will take the education system in the Buddhist or you can say in the Buddhist monastery. So they have to follow some rules, that is they have inculcating that rules from the text of Vinaya. Again, Dhamma. So what Dhamma? That is the commentaries and the interpretations. This section actually all are there in the Tripitaka. So from Tripitaka, Sutanta, Vinaya and Dhamma. This is provided as a spiritual foundation in the Buddhist philosophy. So in Dhamma, this section provide actually commentaries and interpretations of the Buddha's teaching, offering deeper insights and understandings. So these are the things which are included in spiritual foundation of Buddhist philosophy. Again, the Buddhist education system also focused on meditation and discipline. So what in Buddhism, what are the things? That is focus on meditation and discipline, and also includes wisdom. So what is this? One is the meditation, that is Buddhist education. It emphasizes on the importance of meditation for cultivating mindfulness, concentration and inner peace. Then comes their discipline. So what includes in discipline? It is the ethical conduct and self-discipline. These are included in the part of for their spiritual growth and liberation from suffering. And last is the wisdom. Through meditation and discipline, individual develops wisdom and understanding, leading to a deeper connection with themselves and the world. So as they focus on meditation, as Buddhist philosophy focused on meditation and discipline, actually this meditation and discipline leads to the attainment of the core value, that is the wisdom, attainment of wisdom. So when they will follow the meditation and discipline together, they will try to attain the wisdom. This is actually a pyramid. So when they will follow meditation, when they will follow discipline, they will gain wisdom in their life. Again, we all know the Buddhist education, they emphasizes on learning primary also, higher also. They are not only bound to spiritual learning. So they provide all kinds of education in the Buddhist education system. So what kind of actually their education system was? What kind of curriculum they follow? So their curriculum is of the flexible and choice in learning. They have wide subjects. They are open learning, and they were accessible to all. Actually, accessible learning. So what are the wide subjects actually they included? We have already discussed. So their students are free to choose from a variety of subjects which we have already mentioned, like philosophy, law, ethics, science, many things. So they have the freedom to choose from that variety of subject, fostering individual interest and passions. That means the learners are not the curriculum was not actually the teacher centric. If we want to say, it is flexible, it is student centric. So students are free to choose their own level of interest, what they want to learn or what they want to take. So they choose their subject by their own. Then next is their open learning. So curriculum embraced both intellectual and practical skills, providing a well-rounded education. So their education system was always open. It embraced intellectual and practical skills. Then the Buddhist education system was also accessible learning. Why accessible learning? Because it was accessible to all, regardless of social status, background, and it also promotes equality and inclusivity. So the Buddhist, what is the legacy of Buddhist education? Actually, what the Buddhist education system want to give to our learners at that time, when the Buddhist philosophy or the Buddhist education was there. The principles and the practices of Buddhist education actually continue to inspire and influence educational system around the world, highlighting the timeless values of wisdom, compassion and interconnectedness. So this is the legacy of Buddhist education. Now, what are the methods of teaching? We know now we came to know what actually Buddhist education want to preach to their learner. What actually the Buddhist education system want to teach to the learners. But what are the methods they actually use to teach to their students or to teach their Buddhist, the learners who are enrolled in the Buddhist education system. So they used methods like oral tradition. So at that time, actually, there was shortage of writing materials, which is available now at present. So there was shortage of writing material. So that's why they preferred oral teaching. So oral teaching was prevalent due to the shortage of writing material. Students learned lessons by heart. That means they used to listen from their gurus. They used to listen from the monks, and they learned by their heart and tasted through questioning. So whether they have understood or not, how the teacher will come to know? By questioning the things. By questioning the things which they have taught in the students in their classroom. So their knowledge was tasted through questioning. Again, the discussions and debate was also one of the method of teaching at the Buddhist system. So discussion was a key method encouraging logic and critical thinking. Scholars debated important questions to resolve doubts. So discussions and debate was also emphasized as a method of teaching in the Buddhist education system. Again, they also emphasized practical learning. So how practical learning were given? But through tours. So students were taken to tours. So tours were used to propagate Buddhism and provide students with real world knowledge. So the students were taken to some places from where they from where they learn some practical things through visiting some places or through preaching the Buddhist philosophy among the people all over the world. Then the conferences. Conferences were also held regularly to discuss religious matters and changes or the challenges and challenge the purity of the monks. So these conferences actually they keep on in regular basis, and they discuss in the conferences. They discuss all the religious matters of the Buddhist philosophy. The next is one of the practical learning is also meditation. So meditation was a central practice for attaining nirvana, the ultimate goal of Buddhism. So these are the part of practical learning which is also included in the aims of education. Then the Buddhist education also emphasized women education, but there were limited access. The women education was limited. It was not provided to all. So there were restrictions actually. Women were initially excluded from the monasteries. In the very beginning of the Buddhist education, the women were not allowed in the monastery, but later they were admitted with strict rules and reservations. So they were permitted to take education under monastery. They were also turned up as nuns. But there were some strict rules and reservations which they had to follow while taking their education in the Buddhist monastery. Then probation period. Yes, women monks had a 2-year probation period and were not allowed to meet male monks alone. So in this probation period, the women were used to take the education in the monastery, but they were not allowed to meet any male monks in that probationary period alone. So these are some restrictions to be followed, that was followed actually in the Buddhist philosophy regarding women's education. So we have discussed the education system, or what is the educational implications on different parts like aims, like curriculum, like the methods of teaching, like women education. In different parts we have discussed today the educational implication of Buddhist education. So every system of education have both merits and demerits. So we must also analyze the Buddhist philosophy critically by knowing its points of merits and by knowing its points of demerits. So what are the merits of Buddhist education? So Buddhist education also have some merits and demerits. So merits are like organized centers, democratic and secular, and simple life. So what is organized centers? So education was imparted in well-organized monasteries. So it was not given here and there. So there were organized centers, educational institutions, actually we can say, educational monasteries where education was imparted to students. Like monasteries and biharas were providing a conducive learning environment. Then it was also the education system, the Buddhist education system was also democratic and secular. So education was accessible to all. That's why it was democratic. It was accessible to all regardless of caste or creed, emphasizing individual merit. They also emphasize individual merit. And next is the simple life. So merit, one of the merit of Buddhist education is what? They follow simple life. Teachers and students, they live together in monastery and fostering a focused and disciplined environment. They always used to follow a simple, that means their aim was to simple living and the high thinking. So they always followed simple life. Then they also emphasizes on holistic development. In the merit of Buddhist education system, it also includes the balanced development. So what is holistic development actually? It's a balanced development. It includes high moral character. It includes disciplined life as per the holistic development. So in the holistic development, what is the balanced development? So Buddhist education system actually balance physical, mental and spiritual life of a human being. That's why it is known as balanced development. That means the curriculum which is prepared under Buddhist education system, they emphasize in the development of physical also, mental also and spiritual. Then they also emphasize to have a high moral character. It aimed to cultivate high moral character and ideal personality in students. The third is the disciplined life. So teachers and students actually led a controlled and disciplined life, abstaining from worldly pleasure. So this includes the holistic development of Buddhist education. So these are also the merits of Buddhist education system. Again, there are also merit in Buddhist education system if we see the teacher-student relationship. See, in Buddhist philosophy or the Buddhist education system, the teachers and the students were very friendly. They were not like teachers and students. They were just like parents. They were just like friends. So they were cordial relationship. Teachers considered students as their own sons and took care of their well-being. So it's just parenthood, development of parenthood in the Buddhist education system. There were mutual respect. See, we always respect our parents. We always respect the people who love us. So, in the Buddhist education system, there were also mutual respect. So, students actually revere teacher like their fathers because the teachers also love or take care of the children as their son. Because they all in the initial stage, they emphasize on the education of the students. Women, they came later. So it was mentioned that they took care as their son. So the son also revered, that means the student also revered teacher as a father, fostering a strong bond of respect. And one of the important merit in the education system of Buddhism is what? No corporal punishment. So teachers actually trusted students' personality and they relied on positive reinforcement. They never imposed any kind of punishment to their students. So these are actually the merit of Buddhist education system. But again, with the merit, there must be some demerit because each system of education, its educational philosophy have some merits and demerits. So what are the demerits? There are the lack of vocational training. So Buddhist education neglected occupational, industrial and technical education. No doubt they emphasizes science education. They emphasizes on vocation, but they also neglected like occupation in the industry or in the technical area. So that was the negligence in the part of Buddhist education. Then yes, social neglect. Scholars devoted their lives to the Sangha and Buddhism, neglecting family life and social development. So whoever come to the monastery, they have to devote their life for the Buddhist philosophy, for preaching the Buddhism in near future. They have to leave their family. So this is also a kind of demerit in the Buddhist education system. Then yes, military weakness. The principle of non-violence led to the avoidance of military training, impacting national defense. So as they were also always preaching on non-violence, that means they ahimsa, they don't fight, they don't do any kind of activity which hurt others. But this also lead to what? Impacting the national defense, because you have to protect your country. So military training was also a demerit which was not provided to the learners at the Buddhist philosophy. So this is also a kind of demerit in the Buddhist philosophy. Then sanctity erosion. Anti-social elements seeking shelter in the Sangha comprised its sanctity. So there is a problem of sanctity in this is a kind of challenge in the Buddhist philosophy. Then undemocratic practices. The system discouraged women's education. See, we have also discussed in the earlier part of this video, like there is a limited access. All women, later on though women were included, but not all. This was not actually democracy. This is an undemocratic, because they discourage women education, hindering the access to knowledge. All kind of education actually was not provided to the women. So this is the undemocratic practices, which is also a kind of demerit in the Buddhist philosophy. Then in the concluding remark, we can see that Buddhist education has both merits and demerits. It fostered a disciplined and spiritual environment, but lacked vocational training and was undemocratic in its approach to women's education. So understanding its strength and weakness, it provides valuable insight into the evolution of education throughout history. So from this part of our video, what we have learned, let us have a recapitulation of the whole topics which you have included in this part of video. Is what? Like how to attain wisdom. So the question might come, what we have learned from this part of video, like how to attain wisdom, what are the aims of Buddhist education, how the comprehensive development takes place, then how they preserve their culture and spread the Buddhist education, then what are the curriculums, what actually the subjects included in the curriculum of Buddhist education, then how the spiritual foundation is built through Buddhist education system. Then what are the main focus of the Buddhist education system? How to attain wisdom through the means? What are the two means? That is the meditation and discipline. And what is the curriculum actually? It is flexible and choice based for learner. And we also have discussed about the methods of teaching. So what are the methods? That is the oral traditions, the discussions and debates, the practical learning. Again, we have also discussed about the women's education in the Buddhist philosophy or the Buddhist education system. And lastly, we have discussed the merits and demerits of the Buddhist education system. So in the merits, we have also discussed about the holistic development of the Buddhist philosophy. So how Buddhist education system helps in the development, holistic development, we have discussed. That is through 3 points, that is balanced development, high moral character, and discipline drive. And among the merit, what is the teacher-student relationship, we have also discussed. And again, last but not the least, we have discussed about the demerits of Buddhist education. So overall, the system of education is the Buddhist system of education is included in this part of the video, and its educational implications we have also discussed in this part of video. So from here, I hope you have understood the entire educational implications of Buddhist education and how it has been transferred to the education system at present, how it is related to the modern philosophy also. Thank you.